Good evening. It's Sunday night and time to review last week and look forward to the week to come, which we're already up to week 4. So when we finish up this week, we'll have hit the halfway point. And also going to give you a little preview of what we want to do. I don't usually do the midterm exercise in week 4. I do it in week 5. And that's because of the balance of the way the material that I want to cover comes into play. So keep your eyes open for some hints and some instructions on how we do that exercise. It's actually really timely in that it involves, here's a little preview, it involves a scenario that, hypothetical scenario with an NBA team. And we look at a lot of the factors we will have covered up to this point, and it's really appropriate for this time of year, the end of the regular season in the NBA. So when we have the class in Mod 4, it really works out well, and I think you guys will enjoy actually enjoy the exercise, so we'll do it that way. All right, back to what we talked about last week, which, if you read my Friday night or Friday afternoon announcement, I talked about really if we were in a regular microeconomics class, we'd be talking about forms of industrial organization. How do leagues, companies, industries organize themselves? Or even if it's not intentionally, how do they develop, and do they act almost in some cases as a monopolistic way, fashion? Do they act as a single entity? Do they act as business enterprises? No matter what the legal reality is, how do they act? How do they behave? And that's a question I asked a lot of people when you made your initial discussion posts. Everybody had a good, solid opinion on whether they thought it was 32 teams or one single entity in the NFL. But I think the real question is, how does it act? How does it behave? That really is the test of the economic character of an organization. And I think as we go through the discussion, you guys have had some excellent exchanges, and it leads into the topic of what we want to talk about this week. And that topic is competitive balance. And competitive balance, this is the one time in the course when actually it really becomes difficult sometimes for us to maintain that perspective as business thinkers or economic thinkers and not think as sports fans. But we mentioned in the beginning of the course that that's a very interesting relationship as to how those attitudes work with each other. So this week we really want to look at competitive balance. And what does competitive balance mean? Well, I think the term is self-explanatory, but do we really like dynasties? Do we really like the chance that everybody could win it all? Do we want to see outcomes that are predictable, or do we want to see some drama? Now here we are going into the Final Four this next week in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, and we've got a couple of unpredicted results for teams will be participating next week. I think half the world expected Villanova and Kansas to get there. Michigan, maybe not so much. And Loyola Chicago, well, yeah, they've got a championship 50 years ago, but they weren't expected to do this. Is this competitive balance? Is this a one-off? Is this a Cinderella story? Well, it can happen more often, I think, in college sports, but is it happening every once in a while in pro sports when a team makes an incredible run? Yeah, these things do happen, and do they keep people's interest and they feed the business? That's what I want us to think about this week. So, it stems back into last week because what is one of the functions of a league? Well, one of the functions of a league is to maintain fair competition, to maintain competitive balance, and at least in American sports, we do it in one rather unique way that we don't see much throughout the world, is the reverse order draft. And look how much the NFL has grabbed our attention, and now people pay a lot of attention in the springtime to the whole process of the draft. Who is my team going to get to pick? And remember, the whole premise of the reverse order draft is the team that finished last gets to pick the best incoming player to restore some balance to the league and to keep things interesting. Well, what other ways do we do it? We have the reverse order draft. Major League Baseball, interesting? Doesn't? Yeah, they have a draft, but really, when you look at the big stars and things like that, we do it through the salary cap. Is the salary cap just to save money, or is it to establish competitive balance? Luxury taxes, another factor. The NBA has gone about it in a little bit of a different way. It's a reverse order draft, but it's modified with the lottery section so as to avoid teams maybe arranging their season around trying to manipulate that reverse order draft. I've called our attention through some articles included there to the world's biggest organized sport, soccer, or football as it's called in the rest of the world. And how does that do it? Well, they do it in many leagues, many countries. We do it through the system of promotion and relegation. And if you're not familiar with that system, take a look at the article I posted about it. But what it essentially says, you have the top league, the top tier of soccer in your country, and we'll use England as a good example. The top tier is the Premiership. Well, what happens there? The last three teams, the bottom three, they get demoted to the league below them, called the League Championship. The top three teams in the League Championship get promoted up to the Premiership. Well, is this just a reward for having a good season? Is this just a real athletic drive to excel? Or has it got to do with a lot of money? It has to do with a ton of money. And it has to do with the economic standing and health of your club going forward. So competitive balance, how leagues manage their affairs, how things go on there is really, really important. And it brings in things like the college football playoff in this country, the power balance in NCAA sports, and I've included some material there. So I think you're going to find it a very interesting and fun discussion of how competitive balance affects sport, affects the economy of sport, and actually affects our behavior and our interest as fans. So those are the topics for this week, and gave you a little preview of where the midterm exercise will lie. I'm a little bit behind on things today. We had a long road trip, one-day road trip to Philadelphia for a match and for post tennis, which we happily can report that we won. It's kind of a critical match to us. I got back up from Philadelphia yesterday at 3:30 in the morning. Division II budgets don't often allow for anything except one-day travel, so a run from Waterbury to Connecticut to Philadelphia and play a 5-hour match in the middle of it can be a long day. So apologize if I'm not making as much sense as I'd like to tonight. I'm still a little tired. So thank you for your attention for this. Really, again, I appreciate what I see and what's going on, and I think you're going to find this week to be one of the more interesting ones that we have. So thank you, and of course, if you have any questions, please contact me.